Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the Hyperliquid affected by North Korean market. Also, we'd like to discuss how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have crypto majors just chopping after a big move down over the last week. Going to get some reflections there. Also going to talk about Hyperliquid dropping 17%. On the North Korean attack vectors. FUD Bread is going to be doing a very helpful breakdown on what you need to understand that is happening over there. We've also got the InfoFi platform Kaito minting out its NFT collection for 0.1 ETH, surging to a 3.7 ETH floor. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, plus a discussion on general market rotations and a little bit of team conversation on how we are continuing to build out our own YouTube channel and content team. So stay tuned for that. Today we have got Legendary, Sam, and Brad. We've got the full house on the show, on X, on YouTube as well. But just a reminder before we get into the main show, guys, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky. We don't know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary. It is Monday. It is the 23rd of December. How are you doing? How you feeling? It's almost Christmas, man.
GM. Still recovering from being a bit sick, but definitely hope to make the full recovery just before Christmas. And I'm excited we get to have one more full house before the holidays.
Yeah, full house.
I think it's been a while, right?
I mean, we probably had a full house last week.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while. Exactly what I'm saying.
It's been at least 5 days. Yes, it has been 5 days at least before since the last full house. Christmas in a couple of days. Bread, what's your status? How your Christmas plans shaping up?
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple for me because I'm not home. So I actually just got into Spain, Seville specifically, 2-3 days ago. So it's just me and my girl. We're gonna take it easy, kind of explore a new town. It's not a new town. We love this town. It's my favorite town actually in the world, and just kind of keep it relaxed, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the atmosphere. It'll probably be a little quiet, obviously, no family here, and we're not just gonna walk into someone's random house on Christmas Day. So we'll do something small by ourselves, maybe get some stuff ahead of time because everything will be closed down. But yeah, just enjoying the Spanish culture.
Sounds delightful. Sounds very, very nice. Sammy, what about yourselves?
Family in the UK and then off to New Zealand for a month. So I'll be on a different time zone when it's joining the show later in January.
So you're going to be joining the show at what time from New Zealand?
I think it's like 11 p.m. or midnight. I just need to check the times. But yeah, so it's going to
2 a.m. for you in New Zealand. Last time I checked.
2 a.m.
Yeah, it's like pretty late.
Okay.
See you there, man. You said you were going to stay on the show.
Oh no, sorry, it's not that bad. It's 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m. in Auckland right now.
Yeah. So it's it'll be south. So probably it's the same time zone to be honest. But yeah, it'll be a struggle, but it won't be as frequent as the UK. So I think like I might be able to cope until I get back in the UK start of Feb. So we'll see.
Sounds good. Lots of good stuff happening. Just so people know, I mean, we'll probably announce this late at the end of the show as a reminder, and maybe on Twitter as well. Our Christmas schedule will be: we will run today, we will run tomorrow, and then for the first time in modern market history, albeit that's a year and a half, we will actually have some time off. So we're going to take Christmas Day, and we're going to stay off for the rest of the week and next week, which I don't think we did last year. I think we took a few days around Christmas last year, like 3 days maybe. But then we were back maybe even before New Year. Or I can't remember exactly how we did it, but we're going to be back January the 6th. So I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, Legendary, but instinctively that sounds like so long to be off. I'm not sure I feel okay with it, but we've got to take some time sometimes, I guess, and this is the time of the year to do it. Ledge, what did you think?
Yeah, I think it's almost like missing an entire cycle. Last year we said we're going to take off until like the end of the year, and then you said you're still going to run on the 27th and 28th, and if I remember correctly, I joined for that as well because I was like, we're going to let you do that alone, but we certainly did not take such a long break last year.
Yeah.
I'm making a bet right now. I foresee a tweet that's just like breaking. We have to have an emergency space.
Emergency space.
Emergency space. and Modern's gonna hop on. We're all gonna get the DM like, guys, are you available in the next 5 hours or tomorrow, or whatever? And we have to round everything up.
I mean, that was actually one of the things we said privately. We said, all right, look, we're going to plan to take this time off, but then we're not going to know what to do with ourselves because this is just what we do every day. So I don't know what we'll do instead. Like, we might as well hop on, right? You know, maybe there's not a snapshot prepared, for example, but what else are you going to do this time? This is just what we do. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know it's gonna go. It's gonna be like, I'm gonna be like, dude, did you see this happening? And you're gonna be the same. And we have like 3 pieces of news. Then we're gonna probably be like, I mean, that's 3 headlines. Let's add the snapshot to that, and we're back before we even know that the festive season is over.
I'll be doing my AI agent roundup daily. So maybe we'll just like do a all of a sudden spaces just about that for the next like 2 weeks.
All right. So I just announced the time we're having off, and we've immediately
Came up with default backup plans.
All right, guys, looks like we're going to be here every day, so maybe that's the new plan. Maybe we'll just take Christmas off or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into the show as usual. Quite a lot of stuff happened over the week. I know there's some important stuff too, so we're going to bring you all of that breakdown, as well as some other conversation too. So starting with the price action, as usual, we've got Bitcoin down 1% at 96K. We've got ETH down 1% at 3.3K. We've got Solana down 1%, also at $183. Just checking on the meme side of things, just looking at this live. Pepe's flat. Everything seems to be maybe down just a touch, like Bonk's down 1%. Doge is down 1%. Doge, remember, we had support around 40 cents and now is as low as 0.3. So that's like obviously kind of lost the initial support as it's gone down. Popcat down another 7%, around that 70 cents region. Even the AI stuff seems to be down to AI 16Z down 10% to 60 cents. That went as high as $1, I think, at one point in time. Goat is down another 3% to 50 cents. You know, the Doge of AI supposedly not necessarily behaving like that at the moment, but you know, also not out of step with the market because everything is down. But it just seems like where there has been recently some strength on the AI side, maybe that has also been lost. Apart from AI XBT, you know, the top AI KOL up 3% to now a $300 million market cap. So I think that's probably one of the main kind of outperformers. Frog is also up 10%, interestingly. So that's what's going on the meme side. Getting into the main headlines, we've got crypto majors chopping. As we just said, Legendary is going to do a little bit of some reflections on what's going on with price in a second. Hyperliquid's dropped 17% on North Korean attack vector FUD. This is to do with the number of validators that they have. They don't have many validators, but Bread's going to do a proper breakdown on that in a segment today. And then InfoFi platform Kaito mints out its NFT collection for 0.1 ETH, and instantly the floor, well, not instantly, but very, very quickly, the floor went up to I think it was now 3.7 ETH when I last checked. Interestingly, the proceeds of the mint are going to go to the top 1K, not users of the platform, the top 1K people on their leaderboard, call them yappers. Sam's going to do a bit of a breakdown there on how that works. Then we'll also talk about some of the FUD coming out of there too. Some notable sales. CryptoPunks still holding pretty well. They're at a 40 ETH floor. Bored Ape sold for 21.2 ETH. Also, Legendary, do you want to take us through the NFT side to see what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at the NFT majors. There we go. Pudgy Penguin sitting at an 18.2 ETH floor, basically unchanged over the last 24 hours. Still down 40%, obviously, after the Pengu TGE, but up from the lowest low where they went as low as 16 ETH. Bored Apes down 3% over the last 24 hours, down 10% over the week, sitting at a 17.35 ETH floor. Azuki's also had a correction, down 7%, but still sitting at an 11.11 ETH floor, still up 3% over the last 7 days, and obviously up way more over the last couple of weeks. Doodles, similar picture, saw a small correction over the last 24 hours, down 3%, 6.4 ETH floor for them. Although up massively over the last 7 days, up 41%. Another collection I wanted to point out, Jirasan, they went as high as, I think they almost hit 1 ETH. Yeah, they got very, very close to hitting 1 ETH, and sitting at a 0.92 ETH floor right now, up 26% over the last 24 hours, up 54% over the last 7 days.
Excellent summary. Just a quick one on that one, Legendary. Jirasan, I think everyone knows that's connected to the there's a token
To the redacted ecosystem. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's kind of in line with the speculation for that token, which is probably coming to those NFT holders as well as investors. So another NFT moving on token speculation hype. Just getting you up to speed with the rest of the news from around the space in the past, 48 hours or so over the weekend. Trump chooses Bo Hines, former college player and law school graduate, to be executive director of the Crypto Council. He'll be working with David Sachs, who is the crypto and AI czar, on those kind of new policies. CZ tweets UAE has reached $40 billion in Bitcoin holdings. However, I did not put this as a headline today because in a comment of his own tweet saying that, which kind of shared the article, he said, "I also wondered how they came up with the exact numbers. It's challenging to collect, higher than I expected, but then again, there are many wealthy people here." So I don't know. The article didn't seem to be like super verifiable, but it was CZ tweeting it. And he is, I guess, very, very connected in Dubai. So, or in the UAE more generally. So I don't know. It's news that he tweeted those numbers, not possible to verify as things stand. Michael Saylor, talking about working for your bags, replies to Jeff Bezos in the news where his wedding was allegedly going to cost $600 million, which he promptly denied. Saylor said that $600 million would buy a lot of Bitcoin. So that's pretty good. Bitcoin's top KOL putting in the work. Jump trading subsidiary fined $123 million by the SEC over their involvement with the Terra USD. This is obviously some PTSD or some of the things just getting hashed out from the last cycle. Pudgy Penguin's TCG game announces over 10K games of Vibes online ranked PvP have been played in the first 5 days. I'm a very happy investor in Orange Cat Games, led by Spencer. I think they're doing an awesome job bringing this kind of pudgy TCG to life, and that online game is now playable. And they've got the kind of the physical trading cards as well, so that's pretty cool. And as Legendary said, Girosan NFTs surged to a 0.9 ETH floor. They were at 0.25 mint, so very good return for minters. That's it. That's the Web3 roundup. Those are the headlines. Before we get into the main stuff today, Legendary, is there anything that's catching your attention from the roundup?
The CZ stuff is interesting, but as you said, it's difficult to speculate on that without knowing where those numbers are coming from. But it's definitely very fascinating to see that accumulation of BTC coming out of the UAE, no matter how those 40 billion are put and set together. And I think it's also been like a massive discussion once more on the timeline. Mert also got heavily involved into this.
Oh, yeah.
Why there seems to be a lot of talent. Not there seems to be, there is a lot of talent flowing to the UAE, flowing to Dubai. That is very, very interesting to observe, and it's something that I've been having on my mind more and more as well. I think having like a regulatory environment that is friendly to the stuff that you want to do and build seems to be very, very helpful, obviously.
Yeah, I did notice that. I mean, I think Dubai is always going to get flamed for, or the UAE in general is going to get flamed for. I think the argument people put forward most is humanitarian stuff, like civil rights stuff. That argument will always be there. And yet people will keep going also because I think, as you said, there's like these interesting business opportunities coupled with, no one can ignore the incredible tax advantages. So I think that's one of the arguments people make on the other side. Was like, look, if you want to go to Dubai, go to Dubai. Don't pretend it's for like these other reasons. If it's fantastic for tax, do you? That's a good reason to go. Like those are the various things that are circulating in that respect. Maybe a couple more minutes on this bit. Brad, anything on your side? Did you want to come in on that, or anything else catching your attention before we get into the main stuff?
Yeah, I got two for you. So one, like that on that last thing, yeah, just like it's the same thing as anything, right? Follow the incentives, you'll see the outcome, right? Exactly. So the incentives are there, people are going to go, whether it's regulatory clarity or just straight up tax advantages, and talking about that or hearing you talk about that made me think maybe that's the hopeful future of the US, right? Like if we do actually get a little bit of clarity in the US, maybe we get some of that back. Like obviously you're not going to get the straight up tax advantages, but the clarity, the framework clarity will obviously be a big boon. And then before that, just looking at the numbers, I saw the Azuki 11th floor, just thinking like the Overton window has shifted so heavily for NFTs right now, where it's like they're sitting at 11 ETH, and I didn't even like obviously they surged recently because of the token news or whatever, but just NFTs being back, quote unquote, and just how like, yeah, that's $40,000, whatever, $35,000 for a single NFT. So like numbers are already kind of silly.
I actually had the exact same recent reflection, but also like, look, we obviously trade the market as well. And, there's been so many things happening. Pudgy Penguins led the run in that respect, right? And it was everyone knew that there was going to be an anime coin. I just didn't think it would have been this violent across the board for everyone else. So, I mean, bad trade for me in that respect. I think there was plenty of time to at least participate in that action, right? Pudgy Penguin set the thing. Those went completely crazy. There was obviously a bunch of other projects hoping to do the same. I just didn't think it was going to go that way.
Yeah, honestly, we just need a risk-on environment, right? Like people in the bear or the last, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, people just weren't willing to risk money on anything, right? So you're pulling away from some of the further out assets, which NFTs are clearly like people are questioning the asset class entirely for the last few years. So like being risk-on and willing to say like, oh, like doing the math of denominated, whether it's US dollars or it's denominated in ETH, or I want more ETH versus I want more dollars, like start playing those games again. People just like aggressively seeking new opportunities for making money because now it's a money making environment and not like a preserve your capital environment. Yeah, like risk on, baby.
100%. I mean, one of the other reflections, Sam, that we were talking about last week was just can't believe that as everything was selling off so hard, NFTs were like rock solid as people thought, yeah, no, the place that we really do want to park our capital is in these NFTs with tokens coming. Like, even though that very well might be the case, even though those tokens are coming, would the thinking not be this is the worst case scenario, which obviously maybe in a risk on environment, you don't necessarily need to think about too much. Worst case scenario is the whole market's got weak. All the other coins are going down. You might be holding the NFT because you think that the coin is coming because it's basically got a coin wrapped up inside of it, but the market's down. So the coin's not going to come out at the mark, because as soon as the coin comes out, it's going to be as low as all the other coins because those have got sold off. But the perspective seems to be, no, we're super confident in that. We're going to get the airdrop, therefore we're going to make money. Sam, reflections there?
Well, I thought it was interesting just to see the cratering of the actual Pudgy floor after the token launch, and just net, if you bought in just before the launch, then you'd probably be almost break even, maybe a little bit ahead, but to take on that risk is quite high. And just the discussion around like sideline liquidity. Like I remember there was an analysis so Poof ETH did this about 2 years ago, where he looked at all the on ETH mainnet, all the wallets that had interacted with an NFT, and analyzed how much ETH was liquid ETH was in that wallet, and it was surprisingly quite large. So I think there is like something to like, once the sentiment of the market changes, people are more willing to deploy that ETH, and I think we're kind of seeing that now. But I don't know what that means for like NFTs specifically, or whether there's going to be outside liquidity outside of those who have historically traded NFTs will go into NFTs. Like that's the unknown. But it's just an interesting observation, and to run that analysis again now would be quite insightful, I think.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. Look, we've got a lot of other big headlines to talk about today. Remember, we've got a discussion on the majors, just where we think we are generally. We're also going to be getting into the Hyperliquid news, some very interesting technical points that Brad is going to share with us, and getting into the InfoFi platform Kaito. That mint went crazy, 0.1 to 3.7, discussing what is going on there in just a little bit. Before we're going to do that, we're going to hit our sponsored segment for today. It's our weekly entrepreneurial segment, Publish and Profit, where we explain some of the key secrets and tips to making money online as a creator. Today, we're going to focus on the importance of talent, the people who you choose to be around you and who help to contribute to your content. The segment is brought to you by Little Nouns, an expansion DAO based on the famous Nouns DAO, who fund cool creative endeavors which can proliferate the Nounish meme. So when me and Legendary started, we had a good split in terms of our content specialities. We both knew about the NFT market and the crypto market. Maybe I'd gone a little bit more in the direction of NFT art, for example, whereas Legendary had a far better understanding of the technicalities of the industry. But we were by no means capable of going into the depths of the technicalities as super specialists, nor could we expect only the two of us to cover all of the emerging aspects of crypto moving forward. So it made so much sense at some point in time for three reasons to get Sam and Brad involved. One, on the human side, we got great people who we are actually friends with, and that friendship kind of established way before the conversation even turned professional. And then on the professional side, what we're looking for is we got deep researchers and original thinkers, which would help us tackle whichever direction the industry moves. And specifically, we also got people who were good at things that we were not. So Bread's technical knowledge hugely up levels the show. And now Sam's research on crypto and AI adds huge depth to our knowledge base there as well. So in the end, when I think about the expansion of a content team, those are the factors I'm thinking about. And I think that works much better than just trying to get loads of people with loads of followers to pump the numbers. So relationships and quality of work is ultimately much better than the quantity of numbers. I believe that to be the best way to increase the numbers in the long term. And I think we've seen that play out. Just going to you, Brad, coming from the other side, what are the factors you consider when deciding who to align with, whether that's us, whether that's Mega ETH, whether that's whoever you're kind of considering alignment with?
First, I'm going to do a little mic check because I think one of my things died. How do I sound?
Yeah, you're good.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So you posted that in the call sheet, and I thought about it a little bit. First, like you mentioned the social element of making sure it's people you generally just get along with, right? So like that's important. The next is like honestly just raw intelligent, right? Like you mentioned original thinkers, people that are willing to maybe just like voice their own opinion out there, actually not just like regurgitate. And I think that's hugely powerful in this industry specifically, is to take something that everyone is seeing, but then also formulate your own thoughts on it and be confident enough to put that thought out there, whether it's to have a discussion and then change your opinion on that discussion. Like, I think those things are hugely powerful elements that, as you alluded to, is like important for a dynamic environment that crypto is. So that's always been the foundation for my stuff, is like, you have to get along with the person because you're going to be in the trenches together. And then two, like just the ability for that person to be receptive to feedback and then willing to put out their own thoughts.
I love it. Completely agree. That ability to put out your own thoughts is like the crucial final kind of tweak at the end of all of the other bits of content, which I think really separates some decent creators to the people who are, going to go far in the end. So appreciate the thoughts, Brad. And that is the end of the segment. Shout out to Lil Nouns DAO for sponsoring the segment. Lil Nouns is an expansion DAO based on the famous Nouns DAO, who fund cool creative endeavors which can proliferate the Nounish meme. They've been one of our biggest supporters over the years, and I'd highly recommend checking them out as a place to vibe in the Nounish culture and as a gateway to the Nouns ecosystem. Shout out to the Lil Nouns. Let's get into the main headlines today. I said we've got a lot of important stuff to discuss. I'm going to go straight to Legendary first, just for some reflections on what the majors are doing. It's obviously been a little bit red for definitely red over the last week. Crypto majors chopping. What's going on, Ledge? What are the data points you're looking at? What are you thinking? What are your reflections?
Absolutely. Let's take a look. First of all, quick recap of the numbers. We mentioned them at the top of the show. Over the last 7 days, both ETH and Solana are down almost 15%. BTC is down 7.5%. If we look at some other data points, looking at CoinGlass on the liquidation side of things, the last 24 hours, actually not too much money that got dragged. 40 mil in longs, 90 mil in shorts that got dragged. If we take another look, before I'm going to get a bit more into an analysis of what might be going on, have an article to share on that, on some other data points. Another thing that I like to look at is the lending rates and borrow rates for USDC on Aave. It's a bit hard to gather from the chart, which I'm sharing on screen currently, but they have mid-December heated up a lot, went as high as 15, 17%, had even quick spikes above 20, 24% on the most bullish of days, but have settled down a bit, currently at 12%. That is the borrow rate for USDC on Aave. If we take a quick step outside of crypto to look at the stocks, looking at the S&P 500 specifically, also looked at the NASDAQ, we've seen a bit of a correction there as well, but that has recovered and it doesn't look as dramatic. Obviously, stock market doesn't see the same volatility as crypto, but doesn't look as dramatic as the crypto majors might do. Same with the NASDAQ. Also looking at the pre-market, it's basically unchanged for the S&P. For NASDAQ, we don't expect from the pre-market data, that is, to see any strong movements for the market opening just about now. And one final article that I also wanted to share on that, coming out of CoinDesk. that basically is featuring the opinion of Andre Dragos from Bitwise, who's been pretty bullish on BTC over the last couple of months, been done pretty good analysis on that. He is saying that the next couple of months might be interesting, with BTC potentially ranging in that 95-ish K range. And he's saying that the Fed is essentially stuck between a rock and a hard place. Again, him being the director and head of research Europe at Bitwise, because we've seen that bearish FOMC meeting that we talked about, and we still have inflation numbers being stickier than expected. So the consensus, or not the consensus, the line of thought, which I've also seen on the timeline by some prominent traders, seems to be that we might experience a bit more chop until we just see the next FOMC meeting. And that makes, in my personal opinion, the wait for the inauguration even more interesting, because even on the show, we expressed a lot of times that we expect the inauguration to be a bit of a, not seldom news event, but an event where people might want to go risk off for that and just wait and assess what's going to happen. But it also seems like we're seeing that sell-off way ahead of the inauguration. So to me, the price action over the holidays or after the holiday season leading up into the inauguration will be even more interesting to watch.
Interesting. Really helpful set of data points. I always like looking at the lending rates. It wasn't just the Aave lending rates, which kind of corrected. I always like looking at staked USDE, which is Athena's product. That had gone completely wild at the start of December. It was getting, I think the rate each week was being set at around 30%. That has corrected all the way down, very much in line with the number that you just said, around 12%. So things are settling in that sense. People are not taking as crazy risk as they were, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And then in terms of the inauguration stuff, yeah, I'm intrigued. I saw this tweet from divisive Beanie for whatever reason, but in the end, for me, I don't really mind whether people like people or they don't like people. I'm just trying to look at the content of the tweet and see if it's an interesting idea. This is not something, it's not an idea that I had seen shared. So I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. Maybe go to Sam on this first, and then just anyone, to be honest. He said, if you think about it from a Trump perspective, I don't know. I don't know what I think about this 100% either, but I'm just kind of going to say it live and think about it live. If you look at it from a Trump perspective, I think Trump would want lower prices by the time he is inaugurated. Then he can say that Bitcoin doubled in year one. A lot easier to double from 60K to 120K than from 100K to 200K. He will get the credit. Now, I don't know necessarily if that works, in the sense that I don't know if there's any levers that he can pull right now to make the price go down, because he's so explicitly bullish all the time. And the whole reason why everything's run so high is because he is so bullish. He's not going to start saying things that are not bullish to make the price go down. So I don't know if he's like in control in that respect, but I was wondering, like, is that an interesting idea? I don't know.
No,
Brad, you come
not.
off mute straight away.
Yeah, no, it's not. Because
Okay.
I'll tell you why. MFer's already taking credit. So it's not like it's not like he's waiting to start taking credit. He's already said, like, you're welcome explicitly for everything that I've done. Right. So and then the second part of that is, like, when the fuck have facts ever mattered? Like, he could say, like, a year after, I did everything. Like, I made Bitcoin go 5x. Like, oh, I had the biggest inauguration in the history of the world. No, you didn't. We have pictures. But like, it doesn't matter. He'll just say it, and like he can do the same thing for Bitcoin. He can say, oh, and it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. Obviously, he hasn't warmed up to ETH the same way it has to Bitcoin, but he can point to fucking anything after he's inaugurated and say, I am responsible for this just because it's different. So sure, I guess you can narratively, okay, but no, way no.
Narrative is even better right now because he won the election, price went up, he did his best by winning the election, already blessed us with a pump. Then evil J Powell came in, Christmas Grinch, trying to ruin the game, and he will do his best once he's inaugurated to bring the pump back. So the narrative already checks out. He doesn't need to do anything else other than what he's already doing.
So basically, if the price goes down, it's anyone else's fault all the time. As soon as the price goes up again, it'll be his responsibility. Sam, did you have something on this?
Well, I tend to agree with both of them, both Ledger and Bread, but I do think that to your point around the levers, there probably are levers that he can pull, whether he's got leverage over certain institutions that will do that just to drive the price lower and then adopt it. But like, I don't know, that just seems
just wait for a bit. Like you want to go in, but just wait.
Yeah, like I mean, my mates were saying, like my TradFi mates were saying, this is the biggest insider trade of all time. Like why are we not buying Bitcoin now? If he has bags in it, like I feel like there is a way of manipulating the market, and we saw that with like Elon and Doge, like back in 2021. This is just on a bigger, more institutional scale. I think if they started moving some of that 200k Bitcoin to centralized exchanges, people might get spooked. That's a way of doing it, and they might not sell it. They might just put it on exchange, take it off, and say didn't sell it, and they get a cheaper entry and just buy it on OTC markets or whatever it might be. So I think there is ways that they can get it cheaper. And if this mandate, like the strategic Bitcoin reserve mandate, goes through with this like buying pressure over time, like yes, they'll be able to get a little bit cheaper to start with, but it's going to go up over time once that's in full effect. So yeah, it would be a temporary dip if they are able to get access to cheaper Bitcoin, but I think ultimately it's just going to be up if that goes through.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, yeah. Okay. Interesting stuff. One final thought on those majors is like, to what extent is anyone here concerned about Sailor and just like top blasting all the time? I think now he's always been buying a lot in this region. I think I've read that his maybe average price is no more than 30% less than where we are now. Any worries there? Any concerns? You guys think about that at all, Legendary?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but I think it's more of a, how to put that best, it's more of a mid to long term risk. I think if that were to fail, it's not going to be now. It could be, sorry, a black swan event. But I think I mean, it's obviously not based on any data. It's just my instinctive thought and reflection on that.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't see that happening in the next, like, I don't know, a couple of months. If that happened, it would take way more time. Maybe, I don't know, that could be a massive problem in a year from now. And also depends on how his buying action continues. But it is a massive, like, pending risk, so to say. It is a massive play if it goes right. And as Sammy said, if, you know, the biggest insider trade of all times, and if we really get to a place where we have a BTC reserve that is proactively buying up BTC in the States, that will be a very, very beautiful trade to look at. But there's like still general economy. The more institutionalized BTC gets, the more I would expect to also see a correlation with the stock market, just from the perspective that institutional investors might tend to sell off the riskiest assets first in a correction, and then move into more conservative stuff. So if there is like a massive black swan event that could happen, I could picture a scenario around Michael Saylor, but I don't think it's some impending doom that, you know, is waiting to come over the next 1 or 2 months. If it comes, I think it's further out.
Okay.
I also, to that point as well, I also think that a lot of the big players would have hedged their risk, whether it's through derivatives or holding spot in Bitcoin around the MicroStrategy stock. So yes, there's a potential risk to it, but a lot of the big players that are moving the markets nowadays have full risk teams that will assess that. It will go to committee, like they won't be able to accumulate as much unless certain things are put in place. So you'd assume that would go through some sort of governance protocol, and it would be approved by people who have that knowledge. But I mean, there has been issues in the past. So I'm not. Yeah, there is like likelihood they are considering it, and I think it will probably be hedged to a certain extent. But there is that risk, and there is always that risk, albeit might small.
Okay. Interesting stuff. I think that's enough on the majors, just general reflections. Good to have that conversation. Let's move on to Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid has obviously gone on this insane run from nothing, from its inception at airdrop day to rapidly hit $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, went as high as 35, I think, not long ago, and has had a bit of a correction with some FUD. Bread, you are the expert here. What's going on Should people be concerned? Interesting FUD alert today.
You're talking about the prices on this, because like this all came because we saw 17% dip. We're talking about the prices. Remember, Hyperliquid airdropped this stuff at the genesis of the token, which was like 0.0001 cent per token to everyone. Think about like the tax savings they potentially save everyone. Like now it's at $30, whatever, $25, whatever. Anyways, side note, that's crazy. So anyways, on the segment itself, reminder, we're talking about Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is what could be perceived as an app chain, as a chain that was specific for one thing, which was like high frequency trading, right? And it is now evolving. It went live recently with this token. It's now evolving into its own dedicated chain, trying to become an L1. And in this context, it has currently four validators. Validators, again, are the things that can produce blocks on the chain. So quick reminder on how infrastructure works. Typically, the more validators you have, the less performant the chain is. Not a hard rule, but it's a general rule for how these blockchains work. So everyone has been criticizing Hyperliquid because, hey, it's cool, it's fast, it's cheap, it has good UX, but there's only four validators on it, which is kind of a controversial topic. Well, recently, Tevano here, she is a security expert in the space, been around for a long time, works for Consensus. She has been tracking North Korea specifically on a lot of their exploits over the years. Had a tweet that said, basically, hey, I have wallets that I know are related to North Korea, which are trading on Hyperliquid. You can see it here. They went levered long on Ethereum, got liquidated for a couple $100,000, right? Down in this screenshot, $700,000. People are laughing at it like, LOL, they're bad traders. I think the big response here, I don't know if it's actually in this scroll down, or I guess you did it as a response to someone or in this thread, but the big thing is that North Korea doesn't trade, they test. And I think that is the key point, right? If they're doing this, and that's what they're the fear of, like what's going on with Hyperliquid, is they're not just trying to play around and trade and degen. They're prodding the actual chain itself, the exchange itself, for vulnerabilities. And that is scaring people into thinking, oh shit, maybe there's going to be an exploit. They're going to, if you think about the Ronin bridge hack, right? It was a couple $100 million that was stolen. So people then started looking at this and saying, okay, there's signal here. Is Hyperliquid at risk for being exploited, right? So then people started looking at the funds that would potentially be at risk, what that mitigation, the stages of mitigation would be. Saigar had a good tweet on it, but in general, it's okay. Well, we know that there's only four validators on the chain, four things that are producing the actual blocks. So if you compromise those, again, it's only four. So if you compromise four, then you have full control over the chain itself. That's bad. You can produce blocks, whatever. You can double spend. You can steal funds. You can do all kinds of shit. Then again, Saigar tweeted, okay, well, let's look at some of the other known pools of funds associated to Hyperliquid. One being on Arbitrum. Arbitrum, there is the bridge. Everyone has kind of had a meme recently just saying like Arbitrum is now just a Hyperliquid bridge. And then he's going through the process of what it would look like if this $2.3 billion of USDC was infiltrated. So the bridge contract itself, it only takes two of three signers from the validators in order to take full control over that bridge contract on Arbitrum. So, okay, so originally we had four validators. That's already a small number. Now you have two of the three that if they're compromised by North Korea through these prodding tests, that they can steal $2.3 billion worth of USDC on the Arbitrum bridge, send it to a malicious address, whatever. If that were to happen, then you hope that either USDC steps in and freezes the funds, or Arbitrum steps in and rolls back the chain. Some of those things, all those have different quorum and regulatory rules around it. Like Arbitrum can't just arbitrarily do it. They have a security council. You need like 9 people to get on board to sign the thing to roll back the bridge. It's a lot. There, 9 of 12 is the actual multi-sig. So it's mostly just people are questioning. Hyperliquid's great. Everyone's pouring money into Hyperliquid. There's a lot of degen activity going on. Tay here saw signs of a malicious actor playing in the environment, thinking it would be something that could actually lead to loss of funds for users. And then Saigar breaking down, okay, what would it actually happen if like this happened? How could we stop it? What would that look like? Ultimately, like the pushback on this is like, of course, they're prodding the chain itself, right? They're prodding every chain, they're prodding every DEX. They're trying to find vulnerabilities everywhere. Just because there's presence there doesn't mean they found an exploit or there is an exploit. So it's a balance of, okay, this is happening. Is it likely that it actually is an exploit, or are they actually just like poking around like they do everywhere? And Tevano has also reached out to Hyperliquid recently and said, let me help you out. I know there's a lot of attack vectors for a lot of these protocols, and I'd like to give you some insight on how North Korea specifically likes to go after people and try to shore up your defenses. No, there are no signs of an actual exploit. People are probably a little skittish and they're trying to get out. That may be leading to the price flood or the price downturn 17% here in the last, I think it's 24 hours. But ultimately, it's just a technical decision for the team of, how quickly do we expand our validator set to decentralize our protocol to ultimately try to secure our vulnerability vectors. And again, if you decentralize, if you have more validators, it lowers performance of the actual chain. Is it as good if it's not as performant? So there's a lot going on there.
A lot going on. Outstanding summary for bringing up. Thanks so much for bringing us up to speed, Brad. Two kind of follow-on points, and then I kind of wanted to get your take, just your general take on the situation if you were using Hyperliquid in a moment. But you mentioned two ways that if something were to go wrong, like what are the options for Hyperliquid or Arbitrum or Circle to, kind of step in to be of assistance. And one was Circle freezing funds, and the other is Arbitrum rolling back the chain. This view was expressed by Lawrence, who is pretty prominent on the timeline. Forgive me for not knowing exactly what they do. Someone at Euler Finance, I think, maybe he was the founder.
Yeah, he's creating Wildcat. Wildcat's a financial tool for on-chain credit, and he used to be a programmer, so he's a very technical person, but he's also a very good shit poster. He's really funny. Yeah, I
kind of gathered as much. Like, I kind of felt that he knew how to talk about this stuff without actually knowing specifically what he did. So glad I picked him out. Thanks for that context. So his thoughts on those.
There's also kind of funny. There's a long time meme with him where Lawrence is like the Death Note of crypto, where like the meme is that he is the one that is like actually hacking a lot of these protocols, because he'll like write down a name and then ultimately they'll get hacked after that, and then like everyone blames him. So like it's kind of an ongoing CT meme.
Okay, that's fun. So maybe he's in a good position to talk about the hacks. So look, this was his take anyway. Some cold water on those two options to mitigate. Circle are not going to freeze funds without a court order, which takes time to acquire. And Arbitrum are absolutely not going to do a rollback for anything less than an absolutely self-existential threat. 2 billion isn't even close to that. Assuming that a low number of validators automatically guarantees tight OPSEC is also potentially fatal. So I think his position here is that the fallbacks that are suggested are not really fallbacks in the sense that you're not going to get anything close to fast resolution to a hack. That's their perspective. But Brett, I wanted you to have a thought on that, and then maybe more generally, like if you were messing around on Hyperliquid at the moment, how would you be thinking about it?
Yeah, so yeah, his general position, obviously, you see here, he said, like, if they're poking around, it's not just because they're having fun. Like, there might actually be something there. And he's like, you're right. Other people referenced with USDC freezing, like Zach XBT commented on one of these things where he said, like, yeah, they don't operate on weekends and holidays, right?
Yeah.
You go through an actual legal process to have the U.S. government issue like a subpoena, like all this shit, right? I don't think it was a subpoena, but whatever. The U.S. government has to step in, so it's a process. It's not like you just instantly do that. So if they swap to a token that can't be frozen, it's GG's, right? And then, yeah, same thing with Arbitrum, because it is a security council. Arbitrum is a more mature L2, right? And L2s long term are supposed to be that you can't just have someone step in and, as Sammy here mentioned in chat, the Munchables on Blast, right? Blast is an immature L2. Whenever that happened, that exploit happened, and because at that time Blast had full control over the entire chain, right? They could just instantly say, bro, you're not doing it. I'm not going to let you do it, right? So they could talk to the people and say, give us the funds because we're not going to let you do it, like just straight up. Whereas Arbitrum, because it's further along in its maturation process, it does not have that power. It needs the 9/12 multi-sig. Like there's a process to it. And as he said, it has to be an existential crisis, like the DAO hack of Ethereum, right? They don't just do that all the time. There's scams happen. Lazarus Group does all kinds of stuff on Ethereum, but there's no Ethereum fork to get away from that. The DAO hack was an existential crisis. It would need to be existential here for Arbitrum to do it. So yeah, it's just to say that, like, yes, there are measures there. They're not likely to happen because, one, that kind of removes the facade. Oh, facade. There you go. Jesus. I've been traveling too much. There's too many languages in my head. The facade. Dude, Italian, Spanish, yeah, a little bit of German. Yeah, so like it removes the facade of like a decentralization within the ecosystem. So like it was the same they had with Blast, right? They didn't want to step in because like it kind of removes the illusion that there is no control there, even though it is. Yeah. And personally, so like if I had my funds on there, would I do it? I like decentralization or this stuff doesn't matter until it matters. People are going to say whatever they want until it actually happens. If it were me personally, I think I'd be fine with it. But I also would not have a disproportionate amount of my net worth there. So,
Sam, is that what you were about to ask, basically?
Well, no, just about the the Blast exploit with the Munchables. I think they closed the bridge, and there was a big hoo-ha because there was suggestions of a rollback, but I think that was far less. It was like 65 mil or something. They obviously decided to not do that. But the bridge closure is just an interesting one because I think there was negotiations around, okay, well, you can't actually take this off this L2. So you either give us back with like a slight discount as like a white hat hacker thing or whatever it is, or we just don't let you take it off. So I think
there was no bridge at the time. That was the thing that just didn't end up working. Or maybe there was, but yeah, you're right.
It was a bridge by Blast, which was basically controlled by the Blast network, and it also had that 7-day withdrawal period. So essentially, which is a standard period. I know it seems long, but if you're used to use other bridges or the official one, obviously they're faster, which essentially meant that with that situation, Blast could have, in non-technical terms, prevented that capital from leaving the blockchain if they wanted to. But it's a very, quote unquote, very good exploit point. For those who remember, in 2022 we had the massive Ronin exploit. I think Ronin back then, don't want to state the wrong number, but I think they had 7 validators, and that they got compromised for 600 million-ish exploit, which back then was very, very massive. So as Brett said previously, if you have a place where there's a lot of economic activity and money flowing into, you will have people trying to see if there's a way to find an exploit. It's just an on-chain honeypot for hackers, quote unquote.
And the Orbiter bridge was live, but that was capped at 3 ETH. So obviously they could take their 3 ETH out, but that's what they're going to get.
Yeah. That was I was actually involved. I actually had a bunch of ETH in the Munchables thing. So that was pretty nice. I managed to get that back in the end. Okay. Look, that was an excellent summary of what's going on with Hyperliquid. I think anytime people see North Korea, people get concerned and people want to know, or at least get the TLDR. So I think that was really, really good, Brad. Thanks for that. We've only got 7 minutes left of the show today. So let's move on to our final headline for today, which is the InfoFi platform Kaito minting out its NFT collection, ripping to a 3.7 ETH floor. Sam, you've been looking at this. What was the details for the NFT? What was the price action? And what is yapping and points and what's going on there?
We'll take a step back first, and because there might be people that don't know what Kaito is.
Sure.
So it's like a SocialFi, not SocialFi, but like InfoFi, SocialFi platform that's based on, that uses kind of mindshare and social metrics on Twitter to kind of gauge maybe informed insights around like the price action of various tokens and things like that. So they launched it's kind of a stealth launch of this Genesis NFT mint. So that kind of came to market a couple of days ago. There's 1,500 NFTs that were allocated to those to people in various phases. So there was like phase 1 or 2 that were like, if you input your wallet address, or if you're like an early subscriber and you responded to the email that they sent, then you were able to kind of be captured by that allow list phase. Unfortunately, I saw the wallet thing, missed it completely.
Me too.
So yeah, so it's like, it was just hit and miss. And I think, to be honest, like if it was easy to do, those things wouldn't have run as hard. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts in that sense. Like if everyone was able to get in, I think there would have still been FOMO, but I know there's a cap of 1,500 NFTs, but I don't know if it would have run so hard on secondary, because I guess there is speculation around a potential airdrop tie or whatever to it, even though I think they've come out and said like there's no tie.
Sure.
But sure, it's one of those things. So
yeah,
there's a bit of
definitely thinking this is part of some airdrop coming as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're iterating as well. So like to the next point around what are they doing with the mint funds, like 1,500 NFTs, 0.1 ETH mint. these things ran to like 3.7 ETH on maybe even higher on secondary, so a pretty decent return for those that got in. But I think the proceeds, so the 150 ETH proceeds, are being distributed to the top 1,000 yappers. Those guys who are yappers, they've connected their Twitter. They're writing about relevant crypto-related topics and are rewarded as such. Like the methodology is a little bit opaque, but it will probably be like tied to whether it's like crypto specific mind share, it'll be like tied to engagement from crypto specific people or certain people. So there is ways that people can kick the tires on it and be like, well, this seems a bit off, like my metrics are quite low, even though my mind share is quite high or my impressions are high. So there is always that challenge. And it's the same with like the cookie methodology would be equally as opaque. Like you're not going to give out like how to game the system. And you want to do it in a way that's probably the most equitable way of doing it. So there's now a leaderboard that kind of reflects that. The top 1,000 people will be eligible for a distribution of that 150 ETH. So the top 500 will be, I think, 0.2 ETH per person. And then the next 500 is 0.1 ETH per person. So
0.1 ETH per just on one day?
No, just ranked. So top 1,000. So you'll have 150 ETH distributed to those 1,000 people, but it'll be 0.2 ETH from 1 to 500.
Got it.
0.1 ETH from 500 to 1,000.
No, did you say 0.01? Sorry, 0.01 or 0.1?
So on for those looking in on the screen, you can see 0.2 ETH from rank 1 to rank 500, and then
basically the cost of mint.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll get cost of mint back if you rank 500 to 1,000, but you get 2x cost of mint for rank 1 to 500.
But bear in mind, this has got nothing to like whether you minted or not. If you have connected your wallet and if you are a user of the platform, this is how they are kind of distributing back to yappers, irrespective of whether you are an NFT holder.
Yeah. So this is just the proceeds of the ETH mint, and I suspect, and we don't know, but I suspect there probably will be association with like how you perform in these tables and ranks as to like if there is an airdrop down the line,
sure,
which people are assuming there is.
Okay, so look, that's super interesting. Happy to got those like core details about that distribution. So you do need to, if you want to participate in that distribution, you do need to input your ETH wallet by January the 1st. So I think here's a criticism and here's like a question. I'm going to try and tie this into fantasy top just in some way. So it seems to be the case they recognize that, look, this is all kind of built on people. Like everyone's going out there tweeting stuff. We are taking a lot of that information, doing all this stuff, building on the back of it, aggregating it in different ways and creating a lot of value for ourselves. But we want to share some of that with you people who are doing the yapping, because if you weren't yapping, we're not a valuable company. My instinct is that like one event on January the 1st is not sufficient to justify like a give back. That's 1,000 people, 0.2 or 0.1. It's a very small amount, right? Obviously, I guess there's two levers moving forward. One, there's a colossal airdrop for people. If this ends up being a very valuable company, then that's the way they kind of distribute back to yappers. But then the second one, I guess, is the fantasy top model. Brett, I was maybe going to come to you here because you participated a lot in fantasy top. They managed to find a way to routinely distribute to like card holders. And for people who don't remember, fantasy top was like this social trading card game where everyone, well, not everyone, a bunch of people on crypto Twitter had like their own profile. Other people could purchase the card. And as a person who had a playing card, you would get given, I don't know if it was monthly or bi-monthly or whatever, like a portion of all of the trading activity that was happening on their card or on the platform or something. But the point was, it would be routine distribution, not just like a one-off event. It would be routine. Brett, do you have any thoughts on that here? Do you see any similarities? What are your thoughts on this kind of mechanism to involve the yappers with the kind of the money?
Yeah, so it's a good idea to like incentivize usage of the platform and climb the leaderboard, all that stuff, and to get that money from the community and give it back to the community, right? you still need to do something with the NFT in order to make it a worthwhile thing, right? Like the team at this point, I called out 5% royalties on the thing. It's traded 1,800 ETH worth of value. They've made 300 grand on this, even though they're redistributing all of the mint proceeds, right? So they're making money in doing this. But it like Fantasy Top has the circular nature of like you buy cards, you trade cards, like there's fees, there's whatever, and you circle that back to the players, the how they finish, whatever, all that stuff. There's no circular nature here unless you continue to issue NFTs or you like they need to make money somehow. And the only way.
But I think they make money through subscriptions. So that's why it's a powerful product. And it's the same with like any data protocol. That's why it's so powerful, because you have people who are willing to pay like $1,000 for the subscription, or whether it's like an enterprise model, which typically might go for about $5,000. Like people will want that access to information because they know that they can actually make more money from the insights than they are from the expense. And I think that is quite a powerful model. And maybe if there's a token that's integrated down the line, like maybe that subsidizes that subscription, or you can play fully in that. Or like, for instance, like the subscription revenue then goes, so similar to your point around Fantasy Top, maybe that revenue is then used to distribute some of those rewards to people that make it valuable, aka the yappers. Like that's where the insights come from. Or you could have, say, brands see that and use it as like a KOL marketing tool. It's like, well, if you want access to these people direct, like you pay a subscription, but we'll plug into this platform and then we can speak to these KOLs directly through the platform. So there's ways of like monetizing it that could be very shrewd. It's just about getting people on the platform and they're rewarding that activity on the platform.
Okay, we're running out of time. One final question, because I think it's important. It basically becomes, well, it could become, if you were going to pursue this in like a routine way, it's just like Twitter payouts, but like Twitter, paying out to their tweeters, but this is Kaito doing it on like I guess a second level, because it's using all of the data. The key thing, like these products have existed before. Remember Legendary, we used to speak about Super Spaces, this app that would kind of track our spaces numbers, and it was really, really cool, got all this great data, but something broke down at some point where it felt like the data wasn't coming across properly. Obviously, all of these companies are hyper reliant on Twitter's data. And this happens with Fantasy Top as well. And I think the founder recognized this as a drawback, which is like, look, we're going to have to think about bots again, right? Botting is a problem. That kind of really teams who operate with Twitter's data have to, and are rewarding specific types of behavior. You need to go on some metrics, right? Is it likes? Is it retweets? But all this stuff can be botted. So there are various things here that do complicate it. And I've always thought, like, when you're hyper reliant on Twitter, and Elon is the kind of entrepreneur that he is, like, there's always a bit of a risk there. Is there any final reflections there from anyone before we close out the show?
It's an interesting comment you made around bots, because I think Kaito is embracing bots effectively through like agents, like AI XPTs on there. And it's an interesting angle that I hadn't really thought of previous to that happening. Like, I think there's a future where we co-inhabit with AI. And actually, if you embrace it, like, you can probably monetize it even more, because people are going to be interested in those insights.
I think there's a difference between engagement bots and content producing bots. That's the difference, right? If we're botting the faked engagement, that's everyone leans into and said, even Kaito does some of that, right? Their whole thing is to reduce noise, whereas content producing bots is genuine content. That's like drives conversation, all that stuff. So I think embracing that is different.
Okay. Good stuff, guys. We've run a few minutes over because I thought that was an important one to discuss. But just a reminder, friends, if you are new here, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour, live on X video, where we just had more than 2,000 people watching live on stream, whether that's on X video or on YouTube, where you can subscribe. We're also on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you prefer to catch up over there. Just a reminder that we will be back tomorrow, Christmas Eve. And then allegedly, we're going to have a few days off between then and January the 6th, allegedly. We'll see. We'll let you know tomorrow. Hope to see you then. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.